Hi there, welcome to chandu.org and the Excel VBA crash course. During the last 3 days, we have been learning about various basic ingredients of Excel VBA. We have learned what a variable is, we have learned what a condition, what a loop is, we have learned how to use objects are. Even before that, we have learned what this whole VBA is all about, and we have even created some simple macros. Now is time for us to put together all this understanding and create something truly interesting and see how much we can achieve with the Visual Basic. So what I have for you is, in this short video, I am going to demonstrate a simple but very effective application built using Visual Basic for Applications VBA, and demonstrate it to you, how easy it is to get into this new language and start developing applications on your own. Of course, this is just a tip of iceberg, as they say. There is so much to learn in Visual Basic, and the more you dig in, the more you will learn. So let us move on and see our little Visual Basic application. Okay, what I have here is a concoction of what we have learned so far. So my intention is to put all the ideas that we have been learning so far together and maybe introduce a couple of new ideas to you, because when we are trying to create some application, there will always be some things that we need to borrow and that we need to use. So that's what we are going to do here. And we have seen in the lesson 2, which is loops, conditions and variables lesson, a simple VBA application where we are able to press a button and capture the store sales for 24 different stores. Also, alongside, if a store has low sales or high sales, we are able to capture the deviation, the reason for the deviation as well. But if you have ran that application, or if you have gone through that example, you might have realized by now that it is a tedious way to capture the data. You are showing 24 input boxes. It gets kind of boring after some time. There is a chance of mistakes happening and all that. So what I have here is a better version of that application. In this part of the video, what we will do is we'll try to understand what are the objectives of our application. What is it that we are trying to achieve here? And then we will make a rough sketch of our code even before we write the code, because this is not a simple 1 plus 2 kind of thing. It is something slightly more complicated, so we need to plan for it. So what I am going to show is how do we achieve these objectives, what is the rough skeleton that we need to have in order to meet these objectives. So that's what we are going to do. And then we will jump into the VBA code. We have this Visual Basic editor, right? So we'll go there and we kind of write this VBA code. So that is what we are going to do for the next 10-15 minutes. So let us move on. The first thing is to understand the objectives of our application. To help me with this part of the presentation, I'm going to use my pen and draw something on the screen so that we are all familiar with what we are trying to achieve here. Sorry for that. Okay, so what we have is this is how the application looks once it is done, but it is just the outlook. There is a lot of things going on behind. What are these things that we want to achieve? See, one of the pain points of our initial application we have done as part of the loops, conditions and variable lesson is that it is tedious. In order to enter all the 24 store sales and the reasons for any deviations, you have to actually enter data through these input boxes, which are not friendly and which kind of stay there and capture the entire user attention while you are waiting for some input or something like that. So it is kind of a heavyweight solution. We wanted something lightweight and fun to use. So here the first objective must be, let us just say we only have 6 stores for the time being, because if I put the 24 store list here, this is going to be too big. So what we would do is we would just enter the sales data in this column as if we are entering data into Excel. So you'd open Excel file, you'll just type the numbers here, right? You don't want to enter the reasons, but you'll just type the numbers here. Then you will press this button, this guy here, analyze sales report, analyze sales and report button, this button. And when you press this button, we want to do something so that our application is done. Now, the first activities that we want to achieve is, of course, your objectives might be different from what I want to achieve from this application. But the first objective is process sales. By process, what do we mean is that there are a couple of things we want to do. We want to scan this list of 6 or 24 stores one at a time in this column. So we will scan this like that. And if this is empty, then we don't do anything, because it could be empty for multiple reasons. For example, we closed that store on that day. Then there is no reason for capturing this deviation and other things. So we won't do anything. If it is empty, 0 or blank, whatever, we will just leave it as it is. Otherwise, we are going to take up that number, and then we are going to check if it is it less than 500 or more than I'm sorry, I think it's going out of the recording area, so more than 5,000. So we are going to check for this basic condition. Is it too less or too high? And then we are going to do our own thing, which is to capture the reason and put the reason here. So if the number here happens to be something like 20,000, $20,000, then I'm going to capture the reason here and write it here. The reason will be captured through input box, so then the reason will be noted down here. So that's the first thing that we are going to do here, right? Once that is done, while we are going through this list, we are all going to do some other things. We want to, at the end of this processing stage, that is after I go through all the 24 stores, I would like to do another thing, which is show summary. Right? What do we mean by show summary? Well, we want to show some quick statistics about the sales that we have logged for that day. The statistics that I'm primarily interested in are sum, count, min, max, and average. Right? These are the statistics that we are primarily interested in. So I want to show a summary of at the end of the processing, that is all the 24 store sales are understood and any reasons for deviation are captured. I would like to see a message that tells me that today you have made $23,000 of sales from 7 stores. The minimum is from this store at this amount, and the maximum is from that store with that amount. And the average sale per store is so and so. This is the kind of message that I want to see. It kind of gives me an impression of how well we are doing and puts me maybe at ease or puts me at unease depending on the numbers. But I would like to know the summary. Then there is a third thing. Now remember, this is just a daily sales tracking application. What does it mean is that every day you're going to enter the numbers here, and this is going to erase the previous day's numbers, right? If tomorrow I open up this workbook again and enter some new numbers, then whatever I have entered earlier is gone. There is no record of it. So I would like to take a backup. In other terms, what I want is I want a daily log saved as PDF, right? This is what I want. I just want a record of that particular day's all the sales, any reasons for deviation, along with the summary and a date time to indicate at which date and time this particular snapshot is taken, and saved as a PDF in the folder where I have kept this Excel workbook. I don't want to enter any paths. I don't want to put these files in any specific location. Instead, wherever this file happens to be in the same folder, we would like to have that PDF file created. So these are 3 tasks of our VBA application: processing the sales, showing the summary, and saving the report. I don't know what to call this button, so I have called this as analyze sales and report. You could call this anything. You could call this like, you know, throw some pixie dust and it would still work. The second step of our application is, once we understand these objectives, once we have clearly defined them, what they are, then we need to kind of build a rough sketch of our code. Now this step is not really necessary, but depending on how well versed you are with Visual Basic for applications or any other programming language, you can skip some of these steps. For example, I have been writing VBA programs for the last several years. I think I wrote my first VB program. VBA is part of Excel, but Visual Basic is a language that exists even before VBA came into picture. And I think I wrote my first VBA program in the year 1998 or 99. So it's been like what, 13 years now. So I kind of know these things a bit. I feel very comfortable writing this code. So whenever I need to set out, what I would usually do is I kind of write the objectives on a white paper or on a drawing board, and then I would just get into the coding window, which is VBE in case of Excel, and I would probably start writing the code or putting together various parts required for it. But that is something that you will attain only with a good amount of practice. So ideally, the recommended routine is, even for a bigger project, for smaller projects this might hold true, but even when I'm doing a very big project, I would also write down the rough sketch of code before jumping into the code. So you too should do the same thing, which is to put a rough sketch of the code before writing the VBA code. So let us just go into a fresh slide, and this is our canvas to put the rough sketch. Now I hope you remember the objectives that we have defined. What I'm going to do is I'm going to list down the rough sketch. So let us just say this is how our VBA code looks like, and I'm sorry for that line. What we want to do is we want to the first thing that I must do is understand if a store sales are empty. I'll just skip out the other things like subroutine, this, that. Essentially, for each sale in the 24 list, for each of the 24 items, what we wanted to do is if not empty, that means if the store has some value in it, then see if less than 500 or more than 5000, right? So if it is not empty, see if it is less than 500 or more than 5000. If so, then capture the reason, right? Capture the reason. Then that kind of ends this part. We will only capture the reason whenever the sale is less than 500 or more than 5000. And if. Now what we want to do, the second step is, there is a part where we need to show the summary statistics. Now that can be done in multiple ways. I'm just assuming that we will try to do this whole summary calculation as part of our VBA code. So while we are checking for each store, we can keep some variables. For example, we can have a variable like sum of sales, right? We can have a variable like sum of sales. Before this particular loop began, we could just initiate that we could start this value with 0. And for each sale that is not empty, we could just update that value. For example, we could write a line like sum of sales equal to, I'll just write SOS plus whatever is the sale, right? So whatever happens to be the current store sale, we will just add it to the existing sum of sales. So when you do the first time, it will going to be 0 plus that. So it's going to be whatever the first value is. Second time, it's going to increment by the second store's value, like that. It will go on and this value will be incremented. So at the end of this whole process of 24, I could just print this sum of sales as the summary. We'll just skip the other parts because those will be done as part of VBA. Then end if next, right? So this is how our basic loop looks like, which is to calculate the summaries as well as to analyze the sales if there is any deviation. Now the second step is, after this I'm going to move here, right, because there is no space at the down. And the second step is to show the summary statistics. I'll just write show summary. And the third step is to save a snapshot as PDF, right? Now here is a couple of mental things to keep in mind. Saving as a PDF is a process that is by default supported by Excel 2007 or 2010, especially if you're running Excel 2007 Service Pack 2, which is what most of us should be running by now. But if you're running a older version of Excel like Excel 2003, then save as PDF may not be supported in your version of Excel. So you may want to use some other way around to do this. So this portion of the macro might throw up an error in case if you are running an earlier version of Excel. But we'll not go into all those specifics. Instead, let us just move on and understand the code. So far so good. We have drawn a sketch. Now a couple of points I would like to make here. One is, if you look at this sketch, it looks vaguely familiar because this sketch is nothing but our objectives for the application rewritten. Right? If you look at the previous slide, here are our three objectives, right? In this slide, what we have is the same three objectives written in another way in terms of almost like VBA. So what we did is we kind of took these objectives and transformed them to the computer lingo. So this is how the sketch looks like. That means if you have a really well-defined set of objectives, clearly defined, you know what to do, there is no scope of confusion, then there is really no need to go for the rough sketch, because this sketch is clear in your mind. You don't have to put that on paper. Whenever there is some scope of confusion, you may want to kind of make a sketch like this, because that kind of removes any scope of ambiguity, and you would be able to find if there are any gaps and fill them out. So that is the whole purpose of rough sketching. You can do this on a white paper, or you can do this on a whiteboard or something. And this is a very, very important exercise, especially when you are setting out to do large projects or automate a very big portion of your work through VBA. Because what happens is, if you set out to do such big thing in VBA without even thinking some time on paper, then you are going to end up having lots of troubles, because you may not have foreseen various scenarios or understood how the application should behave. So I'll stop my rant here. Let us jump into Excel and understand how to achieve these objectives through this kind of skeleton in VBA. I'm just going to save this presentation because I want these illustrations to be made available to you. And let us jump into Excel. So this is our VR Nuts daily sales log application. What I have here is the 24 stores for which we are going to enter the sales. We will be entering the sale value for each of these 24 stores in these cells 1 to 24. And once you have finished entering the sale values, you can enter up to 10, up to 25. You can leave some blanks, or you can just leave everything as it is and click on this button, right? To keep you refreshed about the objectives of application, I just wrote the same things here, so you know what these are. Now let us just first demonstrate this application before understanding how it works. So I'm going to enter some values here. let us just enter some value like 230, which is actually below the threshold of sales, 500 threshold, 560, 120, 1200, 12,000. Now this is above the 5,000 limit. The store 6 is a holiday today, so I'm going to leave that empty, and here I'm going to enter 560, 500, 499 and 4,995.95. So some values for the first 10 stores, even though this has the provision up to 24 stores, so we have not opened the remaining stores, or they are still in the planning stage or whatever, so I'm not going to enter those numbers. This is what we got. Now I have entered the numbers. I would like to ask my macro to do the job for me. Let me just keep my fingers crossed. I have tested it a couple of times. It worked all right. Let's just hope there are no surprises. So what I have is store 1, reason for low deviation. I think there is a small mistake in the macro, but we'll just go ahead and see what that is. So reason for low deviation is it's a Monday, right? It's a slow day for our business. People are still struggling with their work or whatever. Store 3 is reporting $120. Again, reason for low deviation is this is a new store, so we are kind of slowly picking up the sales. Store 5, reason for low deviation. Here is the problem. It is still saying low, even though the store 5 has actually high deviation. I think that's the error with the macro. We'll fix it while you look at the code. So this is a local festival happened today, and there was a flurry of people visiting our store. And store 9 is nothing specific. Remember, the deviation is just $1 here, so we don't have to really nitpick about that. So once that is done, we are going to get a summary of the sales like this. Look at this summary. We operated a total of 9 stores today. Remember, out of 10, 6 was empty, so 9 stores were operated. We made a total of $20,000, $664.95. Maximum sales we had is $12,000 from store 5, and minimum is $120 from store 3. Now store 6 had in fact $0 sale, but we are going to neglect it because 0 is not going to be considered for our calculations. And today's average sale is 2,296.11. that is 20,000 divided by 9. So this is a summary that we are going to see. Pretty awesome. Then I click OK, and what happens is in the background a snapshot of this report will be saved as a PDF file. Has been saved. Let me just show that to you. This is the folder where I have kept the file. If you look at this, using cells and ranges, that is the file. And daily sales log, 2nd September 2011, morning 7:34 a.m. So I'm just going to open this, and let us just resize this. Oh, why wouldn't this resize? Yep, there you go. So this is my daily sales log saved as a PDF. So whatever numbers you have entered, they are all saved here. But there is another thing too. The whole sales summary that was shown to you in the message box, even that is saved at the bottom, and it is timestamped, so you know that this is the sales status as captured on Friday, September 2nd, 2011. I think there are some mysterious characters at the end. These are the actual new line characters. Maybe the PDF program was not able to process them properly. I'll just leave it out. But this is how the report is captured. It's exactly what you see, but there are some elements missing. For example, this button or these labels, none of them are shown because I've told Excel to not to print them. Here is a very quick tip. If you don't want to print any of these things, you can right click, go to size and properties, and from properties you can just uncheck the print object part, so it's not going to be printed. And I only printed from this portion all the way up to that portion, only that range. If you select that range, you can see that I have given it a name called area daily log. So we are in fact saving that area daily log as a PDF. So none of these things or those buttons, none of them will be saved. Anyhow, you have seen a good demo of this application. Now it's time to understand the code behind it. So let us jump into VBA and see the code. So this is our module 1, attach it to the workbook using cells and ranges. And I'm going to very quickly explain some of these things, but since you can download and play with this code, you can walk through this code and understand it. It's not too difficult, especially now that you have gone through the VBA crash course for the last 3 days. You should be able to understand most parts easily. Let me just resize this a bit and kind of shrink this so we have more space for this window. Great. There is a small function called check sales. I'll explain why this is being used in a second, but let us first proceed to process sales. This is the only subroutine we have written, and this procedure is going to do all the work for us. That's what it's doing. When I click on this button, that is what is running in the background. Now here is again the same 3 objectives that we have defined are written. There is another hidden objective. While in our list of objectives we just said process sales, show summary, daily log saved as PDF. There is one more thing. If we operated at least one store, then only we need to do this. If on a particular day all the store data is empty, that is you didn't enter anything but you clicked this button, then we don't have to do any of these things, right? We can just quit doing any of these and come out, right? That is another hidden objective that is not openly said here, but it is still there. So the first thing is check if at least one store has a sales entered. If not, exit. This is how I am doing. If check sales range C7 to C30 is equal to false, then debug.print. Debug.print is usually your way of capturing some status. Whatever you say after debug.print, it will be printed here. So instead of no sales, you could print a variable or something. Especially when you are writing a long program and you want to check intermediate values, you could use debug.print. I'll not go into the details for that, but let us just look at this line once. What we are asking is check the sales in the range C7 to C30. But check sales is not a function that VBA has. It is something that we have written. So here is our function check sales. Check sales in this range as boolean. What this means is, look at here, it is not a sub, it is a function. And a function can return a value. A macro does not have anything to return. It just does the job, stops. Whereas a function can return a value. You can compare a function with the sum formula or count formula or any other formula you write. Those are all functions. Sum of 1, 2 is going to return me the value 3, right? That is what a sum formula does, sum function does. Similarly, check sales, here what we want to do is check sales is going to tell me if there is at least one value in this range. Of course, we could use another way, several other ways to do the same checking, but I want to keep everything in VBA for the purpose of showing you what is possible in VBA. So when I select this entire range C7 to C30, look at this, okay? I want to find out if there is at least one value in it. How am I going to do this? I'm going to use a function called count A. Count A is a Excel formula, count A. It's going to count a range of values. For example, if I give count A J9 to J12, I'm going to get 0 because there is no value in J9 to J12. But if I enter here 12, I'm going to get 1. If I enter here Chandu, I'm going to get it as 2. So count A is going to count anything and everything. In a way, it is like count all. If I use only count, I'm going to get the numeric count. Only numbers will be counted. So Chandu is ignored. But with count A, even Chandu is included. Anyway, we digress here. So we go back and I'm just asking worksheet function.count A in this range is greater than 0. Essentially, we are asking the question, is there at least one value in the range C7 to C30? If it is the case, then it will be true. Otherwise, it is false. If it is false, that means there are no values. Then we could just print a message no sales to the immediate window and exit sub. Exit sub is a keyword here. What this does is it is going to stop any further running of the code and the macro is exited. It is similar to end sub, but end sub is what you use at the end of the subroutine, whereas exit sub is used if you want to prematurely exit depending on a condition. Once this part is over, I am going to define some variables. Store sales as a range. This is the range of all these values. Sum of sales as double, cur sale as double. These are the numbers that we are going to use to keep the statistics. Count of sales as integer. Min sale as double, max sale as double. This is the minimum and maximum sale out of all the 24. Reason as a string. Message as a string. Message is what you see at the end. And min store as a string, max store as a string. These two are strings because here the stores names are actually not numbers, but they are names. Okay. So then I'm going to put everything to 0 except min sale. Min sale is set to a high number, artificially high number. And you will understand why this is done once you look at the remaining code. For each of the store sales in the range C7 to C30. That means for each of the cells in this range, what is going to happen is if store sales dot value is not equal to blank or not equal to 0, that means it has something. Then current sale is going to be the store sale dot value. Whatever is the value of the store sale, it is going to be put in the current sale. Current sale is a double, so this statement will throw up an error if store sale has a string or text or something like that, but that is never going to happen. So we'll just capture that. And we are going to increment count of sales by 1. Initially it is 0. So whenever there is a sale, we are going to increment our count by 1. And that's how we are able to count up to 9, because this intermediate one is blank. Okay. Then I am using a couple of statements called IIF. IIF is like inline if. What this does is it's going to check a condition. If it is true, this is the value you get. If it is false, that is the value you get. So I'm just asking, is the current sale less than minimum sale so far? If so, then give me the current sale. Otherwise, give me the minimum store. So if you examine these lines, you will understand what they are. So I'm not going to go into those details. Then we are going to check if the sale is less than 500 or more than 5000. If so, we are going to capture the reason for low deviation. I think we have put the low here. I'll just remove that, and that error is fixed. And we capture the reason, and we are going to offset the store sale by 1 and set that value to the reason. This ends that, and this is end if. Next store sale. So that's it. This is our second requirement, which is for each store sales, check value and capture the reason. While we are capturing all this, we also calculated the sales summaries. We are incrementing the sum of sales. We are incrementing the count of sales. We are updating minimum store, minimum sale, maximum store, maximum sale. Now, if the count of sales is greater than 0, that means if there is at least one store with sale, then we are going to construct a message string like this. We operated a total of count of sales dot stores. So that's going to be, we operated a total of 9 stores, and VBCRLF means give me a new line, carriage return line feed. This is old typing machine lingo. Essentially what it means is give me a new line. Then we made a total of format sum of sales $00. Essentially the sum of sales will be a number. We want to format it in the dollar format with a 1000 separator. So I'm going to use the formula format, and this goes on until this whole thing is done. The message is constructed here, and then we are going to use a function called message box. This is similar to input box. If I say message box with a message and a title, that's the message box I'm going to get. Let me very quickly demonstrate it to you by writing the message box here. MSG box hello. Oh, sorry. We will use this thing. So if I write that, I'm going to get a small message box with the word hello on it, right? Then what we want to do is, I'm going to, because in the report we want to have the daily summary as well. So the same things are shown here. These two are two different cells, actually merged cells. If I select that cell, you can see that it has a name val daily log title and val daily log summary. These are two names that we have defined in the workbook, and I'm going to update them from our VBA code. Val daily log title is nothing but daily sales status with the current date. How do I get the current date? We use a variable, we use a built-in VBA variable or function called as now, that tells me what is the time and date now. If you see that, you can see that in the immediate window. If I say question mark now, I'm going to get that displayed here. So now is 2nd of September 2011, 7:46 AM. So the same thing will be formatted in DDDD MMMD YYYY, that is full day, whatever is day, Friday, September 2, 2011, and the summary is message. We are loading these two variables through VBA, and then range area daily log. Area daily log is the range. If I select here, you can see that this is the range from A4 through E18, E38, this whole range of cells. Area daily log dot export as fixed format. This is a method for the range object, and the range object here refers to the area daily log. Export as fixed format. The format should be PDF, so Excel type PDF. And we are going to use another property of the object, this workbook, which refers to the current workbook where we are running the macro. This workbook.path ampersand backslash daily sales log hyphen date and timestamp. If you look at the PDF file, you would see that it has this whole date and timestamp thing at the end. The same thing is constructed with the format. If I use now directly, I'm going to get a couple of slashes, semicolons and all that. And Windows will not allow me to create a file with those characters in the file name. So we have to reformat it in this way. DDMM 444Ys and then HHMM, meaning hours and minutes in 2-digit format. And at the end, I want to give it an extension with the PDF. Even though file type is PDF, you must actually specify the extension as well, if I am not wrong. Once this statement is done, the file will be saved in the folder. It won't be opened for you, it is saved. And then we are going to reset both these variables, both these ranges to empty. Because once the whole thing is done, we don't want anything here. So I'm going to reset them. And that's it, end of the procedure. I know this is a pretty big macro for many of you, especially those of you who started learning VBA through this crash course. But I hope you are able to follow along and understand what is going on here. There is a reason why I made the video instead of writing a lengthy post, because if in a post I can't do justice to all the logic and all the things that are going on. In a video, it will be easier for me to explain and easier for you to understand, pause or rewind and whatever you want to do. So I hope you have enjoyed our first VBA application where we are able to achieve something pretty cool within the ambit of VBA, but without actually making it too complex. Whatever you have learned so far, which are variables, loops, conditions, objects, simple VBA understanding, all of them are nicely put together in this example. I hope you didn't find it too complex, but I hope you found it pretty cool and interesting. So that concludes our putting it all together VBA application. But that doesn't stop you there. I'm sure you want to learn more about VBA. So how do I do that? Well, if you want to learn more about VBA and become a master of it, then please consider our online VBA classes. We have started our first batch in May this year, May 2011, and we have had a stellar response for it. More than 650 students have joined us in that batch, and we had like literally a very busy time for the last few months teaching them VBA. Along with myself, Vijay and Hui, we have also learned a lot of VBA ourselves, because we have been put in the situation where we have to learn some new things because students are asking questions, or they want to learn some new things that we didn't know it. So it has made us better VBA programmers in the first batch, and we are really excited to do the second batch starting on September 5th. That is next Monday if you are watching this video on September 2nd or 3rd or whatever. right? September 5th we are opening the registrations. You can start making payments and enroll into the course then, and the registrations will be closed on September 16th, so you have a 10-day window to join this course. You can learn VBA alone or Excel with VBA if you are new to both. We have some pretty interesting ways to sign up for this program with 4 different options. If you want to learn more, click on this button now, especially if you have downloaded the presentation that goes with this video. If not, visit this URL. The URL is pretty simple to remember: chandu.org/wp/VBA-classes. I'll place the same things on the blog page as well, so you can quickly visit these pages. Again, I don't want to force you or anything, but if you want to learn VBA, please consider our program. It is pretty well designed, keeping people like you in mind, where we take one step at a time each week and show you various important aspects of VBA, and along the way we construct some pretty cool VBA applications to demonstrate the power of it. So we hope to see you in our VBA class and teach you whatever we know, and hope to make you awesome in VBA as well as Excel. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I know it has been a lengthy session, but your support for the blog and your quest for knowledge always motivates us. So even though it's pretty early in the morning and it's a very rainy day here, which kind of forces you to go to bed instead of working, I kind of pulled myself out and recorded this video just because you are motivating me to do that. Thank you so much, and I wish you a great day ahead. Bye bye.